People ask me all the time, is it still worth learning how to code now that AI can do a lot of that for you? I think it's the best time to learn how to code. I mean, there are three parts to coding, and that's what you have to understand. There's the syntax or the grammar, and that can be done by GitHub Copilot. That part is easily solved, and that's the equivalent of learning a foreign language, like learning French. It's really tough in the beginning, and it feels really alien, but eventually you get fluent, and you don't even think about it. Developers who are experienced, they don't ever have to really think about this, but you don't have to really either now that GitHub Copilot can do a lot of that stuff for you. And then there's the architecture, the structure of programs. And a lot of this can be handled by ChatGPT, or at least GPT-4. And when GPT 4.5 and GPT-5 comes out, then that's going to be a lot easier to do. So that part is being solved, not fully solved. So you're going to have to learn a bunch of this stuff. You're going to have to learn how data structures work, things like that. And that is tough going as well. That's the part that I still struggle with, even though I'm pretty fluent in coding at this point. But that is getting a lot easier, and a lot of the really hard stuff can be formalized and standardized because most programs are not that difficult to build internally, and they're all quite similar under the hood. The third thing that you need from coding is the vision or the roadmap. And this is something that is the hardest part. It's actually never going to be solved by AI, in my opinion. But what do I mean by vision or roadmap? When AI can help you build whatever you want, the really difficult bottleneck, the new bottleneck, is going to be deciding what to build. And AI can't really tell you that. It's not very good at understanding what is going to sell and what's not going to sell. That is a fundamentally hard problem to solve. And most humans are really terrible at it too. 99% of startups never really get there. That is always going to be difficult, understanding exactly what to build, but not just what to build, like the big picture, but more precisely how to build it, right? Steve Jobs wasn't famous because he built the iPod or the iPhone or the iPad. Those ideas actually already existed in popular culture, and other products had already been built that were similar. The important thing was the detail. There were millions of different decisions Steve Jobs made when he built those products, and all the people working with him had to make those decisions as well. But most people can't make decisions at that scale. Most people's ideas are really fuzzy. They ask you to sign an NDA as if you're going to copy them or have the time to. And then once you've signed the NDA, they reveal the idea and it sounds okay on the surface. But when you drill down and you ask them, why this, why that? Then if you do that more than 5 times, typically they'll just get exasperated. They won't be able to drill down into the fine detail. They'll run out of opinions on how something should be done, or they won't understand the area and say somebody else is going to do that for me. And that's a terrible answer because as a founder, as someone building something, a creator, you need to be really deep into the weeds. And that's what most people don't really think about. You can't build a good product without making 1,000 small decisions and being opinionated on each one of those decisions, informing yourself enough to be able to decide. And that's something that ChatGPT is going to be asking us to do. It can help us make those decisions, but we have to decide. We have to write the prompt. You need to be a systems thinker. You need to be extremely precise and learn the minute detail. And coding is really great for that because that's exactly what it teaches you. Even a missing semicolon can crash your program in coding. So you do have to learn to be extremely precise. It's not enough to just say, I want the web page to do this. Instead, you have to drill down into the code and say, okay, specifically this hex code for the color, specifically when someone clicks on it in this way, it should do this. When someone clicks it in that way, it should do this. When it's in this state, it should do that. You really have to think through all the different eventualities and fix bugs that come up when you run into them. And once you've learned the basics of coding, I do recommend you check out my other course, the Complete Prompt Engineering for AI Bootcamp on Udemy. If you search for that, or there'll be a link in the description here. Alternatively, if you don't know how to code yet, but you do want to try, then I think if you're sufficiently motivated, you could actually dive into that course. You'll just have to follow along and make any changes verbatim when we make changes in the code, even if you don't understand why. And later you can come back to it when you know more about how to code. You can write your own scripts and experiment a little bit more. And if you're interested in that course, by the way, I'm just going to put a discount code, a link it's going to automatically apply so you can get some money off on that course. Just to give you a sense of timelines, it took me to get to this point about 5 years in evenings and weekends learning how to code, and then another 6 months full time before I really started to get competent. I could build my own programs. But equivalent to full-time work, actually, if you take all those evenings and weekends, this is depressing. If you add up all those hours, it actually only added up to about 5 months worth of coding full-time. I took basically a year of full-time coding to get to the point where I was competent. And if you've done a little bit, then you're part of the way there. Some people learn faster than others, and your experience might be different, especially depending on what type of things you're trying to code. So, best of luck on the journey. It's super fun, super frustrating, but very rewarding. Hopefully my course can help you learn how to code and be that gateway drug that gets you interested.